Hi friends, welcome to another vlog. I want to talk about telling the truth and how sometimes that leads to loss. A quick update, you can join me for the next round of journey mapping by going to callofthevoid.tv/map. We start on January 7th, and if you sign up before December 26th, you will get access to some pretty awesome bonuses, including some one-on-one time with me. I've really been reflecting on this idea that telling the truth leads to loss and how that's something that we're often really terrified of. We are really afraid of change and we are very afraid of loss, especially in the form of abandonment or rejection or losing the relationships that are really important to us. Over the last year, I have let go of and transitioned a lot of my relationships, a lot of my really close relationships, and it hasn't been easy. It's involved a lot of really radical honesty, a lot of really hard truth-telling, and a lot of really uncomfortable, sad, painful moments, depending on the relationship and why it was transitioned. And just recently, I saw this quote, and I feel like I saw it in several places, different people posting it on social media, and the idea behind it was that if something cannot survive the truth, you never really had it to begin with. The idea behind that is that if you start showing up more fully, in full alignment with who you really are, and you're not putting up a facade, you're not trying to play a role, or you speak your truth, a truth that maybe you haven't shared before or that you kind of kept tucked away, if the relationship is not built on solid footing, if you don't have a solid foundation to begin with because you are not showing up as who you are, because you're not speaking your truth, then yes, telling the truth, if it can't survive it, you never really had it to begin with. It was never really built on a solid foundation. And that makes sense, but I don't always believe that that's the case. I look at some of the losses that I've experienced this year that came as a result of truth-telling, whether it was someone telling me their truth or me telling them my truth. It didn't negate everything that we had created together. It didn't negate anything from the relationship up to that moment. One of the books that I really love that I've read in the last year is called Radical Honesty, and it's all about this idea of really telling the truth in each and every moment. And he talks in this book about how truth is not only subjective, but it changes. The example that he uses is that if I am mad at you, if my truth in this moment is that I am pissed off at you, if I go and get radically honest with you and I share that, I share my feelings, I share why I'm upset, why I resent you, what's going on in my head, and I express myself to you, at some point during or after doing that, it's no longer true that I'm pissed off at you. So as we share our truth, the truth evolves and shifts and changes. As we grow as humans, as we go through our life, we evolve and shift and change. So just because we decide that something needs to change for us, or we decide to express our truth, it doesn't take away from what happened before. What it does do, however, is alter the container that we're working with, whether that's in our business, whether that's a different area of our life, or it's a relationship. If something shifts within us and our truth changes, or how we want to show up and engage changes, it does alter the foundation. It doesn't negate it. It doesn't mean that it wasn't stable to begin with. It just means that it has to be renegotiated going forward to stay stable. Sometimes that renegotiation happens, and other times it doesn't. Other times it does lead to loss because the container has shifted. The foundation is now different. What you're working to build has changed, but it doesn't take away from what was there before. Every year I choose a word for the year, or I like to say more often than not, a word chooses me, because I don't always know exactly what it means for me until I start to really move through the year and kind of see how it unfolds. But in 2014, I chose the word truth. I wanted to show up from a much more honest and truthful place. I wanted to speak my truth more clearly, more often, and more fully. And I remember so many moments in that year where I would repeat truth, 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 either in my head or under my breath before doing some really serious truth telling. And it resulted in some really phenomenal shifts in my work and in my personal relationships. At the end of that same year, however, I told the truth in a really big and hard and heartbreaking way, and somebody died. Somebody died in the direct aftermath of me sharing my truth. There were a lot of ways that this showed me that telling my truth wasn't safe, that some losses as a result of truth telling were a lot harder and more horrific to bear. But instead of shutting that down, I leaned into it more fully. I actually got even more brutally honest. Part of that was I didn't have a brain. I had PTSD, so I didn't really have a filter. But in order for me to survive that loss and to survive my grief, I had to tell the truth in my writing, with my family and friends, in all of my relationships. I had to get brutally honest. So I absolutely understand the fear of truth telling leading to loss. Some of those losses are bigger and harder than others. Some of them do mean that the foundation that you had with the person or the experience or the area of your work or life, it wasn't stable to begin with. You never really had it to begin with. And sometimes it just means that you or the other person or something about the situation has shifted. That's it. And it's okay. It's okay to let go of people and things and experiences when the time is right. I write a lot about this. I don't think I've said it in a vlog, but I really truly believe that with growth comes outgrowing. Not always, but often. The more committed you are to growing into who you are here to be and doing the work that you are here to do, the more likely you are to outgrow certain people and situations and environments. It's normal, it's healthy, it's okay. And it doesn't take away from anything that was there before. It doesn't negate anything that was real and true for you before that moment that something shifted and you spoke your truth. My invitation for you today would be to really look at where you're not showing up fully and completely and honestly, or where you're not speaking your truth because you're afraid of the losses. Some things, even many things, will survive you telling the truth, and some things won't. And while I have let go of and transitioned a lot of relationships and even aspects of myself and my life and my work over this last year, even though it's sad and it's hard and it's heartbreaking at times, I would never trade it for anything, because I know that on the other side of that is more truth, more expression, more connection, more depth, more alignment. Each and every time a loss has been a result of telling the truth, I have not once regretted it. I feel sad. I miss the people sometimes that are gone. Sometimes I think it would be easier to go back to how I did things before, but I don't ever regret it because I am constantly facing forward into what comes next. And I know in my heart that as hard as it is, with growth comes outgrowing, and that's okay. That's what I have for you today. Really just check in and see, what truths are you not speaking? Where are you afraid of loss? So much so that you are unwilling to show up fully or honestly and be who you are in each and every moment. I will be sharing a series of videos with you next week. The first video is all about the hero's journey as a framework and how we can really use it as a tool to rise up and come back from the dark, hard chapters in life. The second video is all about this concept of the void and how we work with it to really deepen our healing, to really move through that death and rebirth so that we can step more fully into what comes next and experience more peace and joy and love and connection throughout all of it. I will also be sharing what it takes and what it looks like to really reorient your own life, work, and relationships as you come back from these journeys that we walk, as you really step into who you are, who you're here to be, and the work that you're here to do. Stay tuned for those videos, and I will catch you next week.